Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome in. This is FST. It's Fantasy Sports Today. My name is Matt Striker. His name is Joe Pisapia, and you can hear it in my voice. Football is fully here. Welcome in, everyone. Joey P. My face hurts from smiling. I want that to be known. At SportsGrid, at SportsGrid TV. Those are our social media handles. We want to hear from you all day, all night, into tomorrow. So much, Joe. Let's talk, my man. How happy are you?
Oh, I'm very happy. We've had football that counts, football that matters. We've got injuries to talk about. We've got start-sits. We got everything. It's like we never left doing this. And some days it feels like that a little bit. But this is what we work for all these months and months to get to the season. And, of course, week one is a liar. Don't forget about that. You're going to see some good things. You're going to see some bad things. You're going to be some ugly things as well week one. But not everything is the truth necessarily. So, again, take a nice deep breath after this week is over, because that's when the real work begins. But, Matthew, we got to start with the headlines here, and we have to start with Christian McCaffrey's calf. And, look, I do believe, unlikely voice of reason, Joe Pisapia, that maybe a little of this is overblown and people are overreacting just a little bit. Okay. However, I will also still say, how does it feel, everybody, when you took him 6th or 7th overall? How are you feeling right now? Are you warm and fuzzy in your tummy that you selected Christian McCaffrey? Is this going to be the next 3 months of your life, hanging out with your family around the holidays, wondering if Christian McCaffrey's calf is going to stay attached to the rest of his body? This is a problem. It's going to be a chronic problem, most likely. And there's huge risk. And it's just a reminder of this is why we talked about in July. Well, he's going as the 14th player overall. That's a great value. That's something we can get involved into. Well, around August 1st, he was going around the 12th player overall, 10th player overall. Okay, we can manage risk. It's kind of interesting. But once he goes almost top 5 in some drafts, that's it. Now you're in for it. So you got to play him this week, no matter what's going on. Hopefully you have Brian Robinson Jr. And Matt, going back to our conversation, to me, the big red flag was when you traded draft capital as a San Francisco 49ers. I don't care if it's a late pick. Draft capital is very important in the NFL. They could have signed any jabroni off the waiver wire to be a backup depth piece for this backfield. They didn't do that. They moved draft capital to bring in Brian Robinson Jr. That was the flag to me that said Christian McCaffrey might not be the guy that we expect him to be in 2025. Let's hope he is for everybody that drafted him. But when that news broke on Friday, certainly a lot of people were very concerned.
I'm a follow the money guy. I always have been. There's a lot of noise out there. You have to eliminate it. But also, football is a game of misdirection. So, and I'm from the pro wrestling world. I mean, I still have a little of that stink on me. So I often wonder if teams do this just to kind of move things along. But I'm with you. And I like what you said at the start. Week one is a liar. And for something like this, this is why we stayed away from McCaffrey and why we invested our draft capital elsewhere.
By the way, speaking of that stink, I can't imagine when you unzip the gear bag from like 2009, what that thing smells like. I mean, what's happening?
I took good care on taking care of my gear is one of the things that my trainer taught me. And also it extended the life of your gear. Remember when I was on the road, you didn't have a lot of money you have to take care of. You had a little sewing kit and buy the light. Those knee pads, you got to make sure A, they're clean, and B, that they're going to last you a while. But there you go.
Well, I would like to see the SportsGrid Matt Striker Arts and Crafts show. That's the one I'd like to see if the sewing is going to be on there. Yeah. Let's talk a little Eagles Cowboys. Jalen Hurts, couple touchdowns for him. Not a lot of activity for Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown. Relax, guys. Everything's going to be fine. Let's not overreact to this. Let's not get crazy here. The Dallas Cowboys certainly more competitive when Dak Prescott's there and Jalen Carter is out. That was a good combination. So spits aside, certainly some good takeaways from Jalen Hurts and the defending champions. But again, the Eagles are a little reckless sometimes, and they get away with it sometimes because Saquon makes plays and Jalen Hurts makes plays, but they still have a little bit of lack of discipline around that team sometimes. That can drive you a little crazy. Chiefs Chargers, Xavier Worthy out. He's on that injury report now. That dislocated shoulder could be a couple weeks, depending on the extent of what's going on underneath. If there's labrum damage, that could be surgically repaired potentially. That would mean much longer. We're looking more like the 6-week range, possibly even longer. It depends. So this is a troubling scenario here because, Matt, we're already out of the gate week one. The Chiefs don't have Rashee Rice for 6 weeks. Now they're not going to have Xavier Worthy for a couple more. we looking at Juju Smith-Schuster again? What year is it? Is it 2016, I ask you?
I think this opens up a door for just a bit of an Indian summer, if you will, for Travis Kelce. I think they have to go back to what got them to the dance. As someone that suffered a grade 3 separation of the AC joint in my left shoulder, and if I could, I would show it to you. It kind of sticks out. This isn't something that, even though you can get back into on the field, how effective can you be? Think of what a receiver's movements are about, raising his hands up, pulling things in. Any type of shoulder manipulation is going to have that problem. So I'm completely off of him, and I'm looking for this offense to change direction a little bit, but still be effective.
Yeah, you would think that was an injury that Matt got on an arm drag or something like that. It's not. It's an old sewing injury. People don't realize that. So just wanted to put that out there for everybody. Also in the headlines, the backfield of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Who will it be? Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby? Well, it's going to be both of them. So are both viable? That's the big question. I think if you're in a deeper league, the touchdown equity of Tank Bigsby is there. I don't love it, but in half PPR, if you need a flex desperately, you don't like the way things are going, or if you are in a deeper league and you have an RB2 spot you have to fill, okay with Tank Bigsby. But in PPR, it's still Travis Etienne for me. I still think he's going to get the lion's share of the work. And I do think this will be a competitive, high-scoring game because I don't believe in the Carolina Panthers defense. So, again, Jacksonville, Matt, this is going to be one of those backfields we're going to watch every week. I think some weeks people are going to be happy with Etienne, and some weeks people are going to be unhappy that they have Etienne, and vice versa when it comes to Bigsby. And then Bashal Tutin eventually will get in the fold. It'll be a good time for nobody. But yeah, so those are the headlines so far in the NFL starting week 1.
Yep, I mean, this is how we go, and not too many big things happening, but I do have some questions, and again, a lot of our listeners and viewers have as well. So as a Davante Adams manager, my first question is going to come up about Matthew Stafford's health, and I want to know what you and your gremlins are telling you against the Texans in week 1.
My gremlins are telling me he's an old man who doesn't want to practice in the preseason, and he has a back that is chronic, and he is going to show up on Sunday or Thursday or Monday, whatever day the game is. This week it's Sunday. And he's going to play until he can't play anymore. This could be the swan song for Matthew Stafford this season. It's starting to feel a little bit more like that. But I think that you're still playing Puka Nacua and Davante Adams, Kyren Williams. Look, this Houston Texans defense is tough. They need to protect him today because it could get a little bit messy. But Stafford's in. You're starting him. To me, he is right on that fringe at QB 20-ish. I think he's right around that range where you feel okay in Superflex League starting him. You don't feel great about the injury risk, but he is at QB 25 in the consensus rankings right now. Tyreek Hill is going to play. Devon Achane is going to play, but don't be surprised if Ollie Gordon gets a lot of action. Sometimes you can learn a lot about fantasy stuff by looking at some of the Vegas lines. The Ollie Gordon anytime touchdown prop is around plus 175, which is much lower than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
And I'm just putting that out there for everybody because if Vegas thinks that Ollie Gordon's probably going to score a touchdown, maybe he's somebody you should consider in your flex. Devon Achane has a calf issue of his own. And if we're going to keep him healthy for a season here, he's going to have to shave some carries off, especially those goal line carries. So don't be shocked if Ollie Gordon works a little bit more. Stephon Diggs is going to play. A lot of people who told us in July, he's not going to play in the first couple weeks of the season. Anybody who watched him work out knew that he was going to make his debut week 1. He looked terrific in camp. Now, how much is he going to work? Is he going to work every single snap? I doubt it, but he is on the field and he's going to make an impact in today's game against the Raiders defense that's frankly not very good. And then Jaden Reed, look, we're running out of wide receivers here. He's questionable today. Keep a close eye on this one. Matthew Golden, Tucker Kraft, I think will benefit if Jaden Reed is out. But even with Jaden Reed playing, Matt, he is going to be limited, which means Kraft wheels up, Golden wheels up, and hopefully a healthy Jordan Love will give us a very entertaining game against the Detroit Lions today. Also on that side, we like a lot of pieces on that Detroit side. We're going to see the new offense that's been installed now that Ben Johnson's gone. So much to talk about. And when we return, we're going to talk fantasy over-unders. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this.
I was looking at it through my phone at first. I'm like, why is there such a delay? And why are we getting pitch hitters right away? Oh, the pitcher got thrown out for some reason. Maybe he hurt himself. But no, turning out and seeing a brawl was absolutely hilarious to let that one play out. Just the way it is sometimes in baseball. We don't get a lot of good fights and a lot of good brawls and anger, specifically from two teams that aren't going to the playoffs. So good on them for showing that moxie last time. But it's good to see a little bit of a brawl and a little bit of that passion here.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You're looking for JJ. You and I already discussed here. Addison's gone for a couple of games here. They don't really have a number 3. Thielen, fine. You do have a nice tight end here. The running game could be solid here. Like I said, I don't think he'll have the least productive season of his career. If the question was how it should have been with the injuries, I might have said yes, because then it would be 88, 1,407. So then I might have said yes.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
No better place to be than SportsGrid. College football today, right here on the SportsGrid Network. Joe, Lisi, Donnie, right side for the entire season, Joe, on Saturday. This is your place. This is your place to be, Joe.
I love it. I tell you. And it's flying. Show's flying. We're on an hour already. I can't wait. We're licking our chops for these Rat Pack games. And it's a great slate.
Look at you on the screen right now.
Look like a little rat.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
The reason why I feel like Jared Goff doesn't really enter these MVP conversations. Jared Goff last year was on the team with the best record in football, threw for 4,700 yards, 37 touchdowns, and Tom was never in the race. He was never in the race because we know he's not that guy.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST. It's Fantasy Sports Today. Matt and Joe with you here, giving you everything you need in order to dominate. Let's not wait. It's time to make some money. It's time for Fantasy Over Under. Joey P, come on in. I'm going to tell you the player. I'm going to give you the situation, and you tell me your thoughts. It's as simple as that. Here we go. We're starting with Kenneth Walker III. I do believe you must say it with an air of dignity. The over-under of 62.5 rushing yards. Over, under, and why? Let's go.
Well, first of all, I think it's really important that when you pay attention to some of these lines that Vegas sets, it will inform your fantasy decision-making process. You know, there's a reason why they build all those hotels. There's a reason why a lot of people lose money, and because everybody wants to wish cast the best case scenario sometimes. And that's not always going to be the case. And really, when you're making fantasy decisions, it's about what? Your third wide receiver, your second running back. You're always playing those big-time starters. You're trying to figure out your flex spot, right? We're trying to figure out those things. And sometimes some of the information we get from the lines tells us whether or not we want to go and invest in a player that week, and we think that that player is going to help or hurt our fantasy team. And I got to say, I think that sometimes you can find a line that might be a little off or something that's going to go in another direction. And I think the Seattle game is the one that's going to go in another direction. I think everybody's just handing the 49ers the keys to the castle again, and I'm not ready to do that. I'm just not. And I don't love Sam Darnold. I don't love the offensive line. But I also don't love the defensive line necessarily of the 49ers. I know they drafted some rookies, but they were one of the worst teams last year against the run. You could run all over the 49ers. And if I'm the Seahawks, that's what I want to do at home. I know Charbonnet is going to work in this backfield too, but I look at Ken Walker and this number of 62.5, and I think he can get over this. Not by a lot, but I think he can get into the 70s today. This is a big in-division game. We're not holding back. We're not out of conference here where we're trying to, well, let's just rest everybody till week 2 or 3 and we play that big in-division game. This is the in-division game that matters. This is the one where you think, okay, if we could take down the 49ers here, we start this season in a different way. That Seattle defense is really good. If you run the football, you play defense, I think Seattle has a shot to upset everybody here on the 49ers side. And I know that's going to sound like I'm crazy, but remember last year when I told you that I thought the Bengals were going to get upset by the Patriots, and I said the Patriots are no good, but it's going to happen, and it did. Well, Joe Stradamus is going to strike again here. And I think we want to pay a little close attention to the possibility, at least, that Seattle at home as underdogs are going to take it personally out of the gate, and they're going to be prepared for the 49ers. And the 49ers, again, everything is not hunky-dory. They lost a ton of pieces last year on their defensive side. Hufanga's gone. They've lost Greenlaw. They've lost a bunch of guys. Like, I just don't think they're the same defense. I don't think we could fix it in week 1 necessarily.
All right, going to be a fun one. Let's keep it moving here. Management changes aside, personnel still features 2 players in at least the top 12 of most drafts. Talking about the Detroit Lions, one of those players is wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown. The over-under is 66.5 receiving yards. Joe, are you going over or under, and why?
Well, I think early on what we're looking for is the stars to carry our fantasy teams, and I think that happens in wagering as well. Looking at Amon-Ra St. Brown, looking at the connection with Jared Goff, yes, it's going to be a different offense, but I still don't see how it doesn't filter through Amon-Ra first and foremost. And then you look on the other side of this football. Sure, Micah Parsons is there. How much is he going to be there this week? None of us really know if he does play at all. And the corners still are not great, okay? They're not very good in Green Bay. What does that mean? That means Amon-Ra St. Brown in matchups that are going to be favorable for him all day long. It also means just a reminder, I think, that nobody really outworks Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's going to be more prepared than anybody else out of the gate in week 1, and I think that's very important to understand and recognize. So I like the over here on 66.5 receiving yards. To me, from a fantasy perspective, I think he could have a huge day right out of the gate, and the hope is that a healthy Jordan Love can help push this total. If he does, it's a really good thing, because now all of a sudden we have to keep pushing the ball for the Lions, and next thing you know, that's more on the plate of Amon-Ra. So could be a really big day here, could be an over, and if we're going over there on the total, we should be looking very much at Amon-Ra St. Brown to carry a lot of that weight.
Yep, that absolutely makes sense. Okay, football is a game of adjustments, as is wagering, as is fantasy football. When you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive line, while it is solid, there is an injury, I do believe, on the left side. How will that impact Bucky Irving? Over under 70.5 rushing yards. Joe, where do you stand?
Well, you nailed it. That's part of this, okay? The Tristan Wirfs injury is part of this equation. So he's going to miss some time, and he is one of the best out there, period, on the offensive line anywhere. And then when you factor in, it is week 1, and you see a lot of teams week 1 still share backfields. Why? Because it's week 1, and these guys don't have that stamina built up yet. These guys aren't playing 4 quarters in preseason, okay? That crap ain't happening. So if you go back and look at last year against Falcons, how many times did Bucky Irving break 50 yards against them last year? The answer, 0. He was in the 40s both times. And this was not early in the season, okay? This was later when he was kind of the guy in the backfield already. So I'm not saying he can't have a good day. I'm not saying he can't score a touchdown. But 70.5, I think, is a very high number right out of the gate for Bucky Irving against the Falcons, who did everything they could to bolster that defense. And they are at home. And I just think 70.5 is a little high for me when it comes to Bucky Irving, based on the Wirfs injury, based on last year against the Falcons, and based on the fact that it's week 1. And again, these guys are not ready to run the race. Trust me. They ain't. That's why week 1 football is sloppy and weird stuff happens. So if you see more Rachaad White, if you see a little, Tucker, if you see some of these other guys working in this backfield, don't be shocked today. Bucky's still the man. Bucky's still going to have a great season, but it could underwhelm a little bit from a yardage total standpoint.
Bucky's still the man. I like it. I can hear the T-shirts being printed. All right, we have a bonus one, and then on the other side of the break, we'll do FST, buy low, sell high. I'm excited for that. All right, with the time that we have remaining, let's talk a quarterback, a young quarterback, a name I think we're going to say a lot on this show throughout the season. It's Cam Ward, over under 193.5 passing yards. Over or under, Joe, take us to the break.
Well, look, I'm going to caveat this and say I really like Cam Ward. I think Cam Ward is going to have a good rookie season, and I think the Titans have a good franchise quarterback. But week 1, for a rookie to go to Denver in Mile High, which is a tough environment for anybody to go play, against that defense, and then have your best wide receiver shut down by Patrick Surtain, is not a good time, okay? He can pizza, he can French fry, he can do whatever he wants. It's not going to be a good time for him, okay? So I'm going under on the 193.5 here, and I go under on all the Ridley props as well. Look, Ridley is a guy you can start, but in 2 wide receiver leagues, there's far better options this week. I think it's going to be an awful situation. And don't forget, Sean Payton has told us, he has shown us, against bad teams, especially at home, he's going to pile on the score. 31-10, 33-7. Go look at last year's scoreboards. It'll tell you everything. More FST right after this.
Want to play roulette? Here's a tip. European roulette has a lower house edge than American style. The lower the house edge, the better shot you have at winning. Most online casinos offer European roulette. So, if I were you, I'd get spinning. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Like it or not, 18-year-olds dropped with a whole heck of a lot of money in there. Boy, yeah. I tell you, it changes people, Donnie, and it's a new reality that we better get used to in college football, because look at the kid from UCLA, former Tennessee quarterback, making millions of dollars. You really think he cares? They got absolutely embarrassed and trounced.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The Dallas Cowboys losing that pass rush, losing another big impact player on the defensive side, all this does is make me like Dak Prescott more and CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens more, because what we talked about all offseason, right, Matt, which is, hey, when Dak is healthy, he is a top 5 fantasy quarterback, and the defense we think is okay, but we think they're going to be in a lot of shootouts. Now I definitely think there's going to be a lot more shootouts.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
So game one, I already made a mistake. I put my touchdown prop bets in hours ago. When you and I started talking before kickoff, I got so excited and I bet him again without even thinking that I already did it.
I
was like, Jalen Hurts. I was like, and then I was like, wait, I think I already did this. And I scrolled down. I was like, yeah, you already did do this. And I was like, oh, it's okay. That's okay.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports Today. Matt and Joe with you here, an incredible crew behind the glass. I mean, I don't like to use the word zany a lot, but like during the break, so this segment is called Buy Low, Sell High. Everyone is chiming in, doing, I guess, their best, what is it, like old mother voice about buying low and selling. Everyone's real excited for this, Joe. We're ready for this segment, so I'm not going to ask you to do the voices. I'm just going to dive right in. Give me a good buy low candidate. It's interesting. I'm asking you now, and there has only been 2 games played. Well, what's up here?
Matthew, it's your mother. Why don't you ever call me? I don't understand. You never call me. I text you. I do the text to the speech. And I do it, and it's all there, and you never text me back.
No,
because your mother does that too. I know my mom does.
No,
it.
she
Mom,
does
I know
it,
you're
and
watching.
then
You love
she
the
doesn't press
speech.
send. So the whole entire text does not send, but it lives on her phone. She thinks it's sent. Oh, Joe, you're opening up an entire can.
Do you get the one of one text message too, or it's just blank? That's always the best one. I just write back. Love you too.
Send my mother a buy low and sell high candidate.
All right, let's talk. Like, is it early for trades? Sure.
God bless the moms.
But it's never too early to start looking ahead at the trends. And there are some leagues where people overreact and panic. And I think you want to take advantage of that, or at least recognize, what did we say? Week 1 is a liar, right? So let's take a look at what we saw out of the Eagles and the Cowboys, right? Because that's like the first game we saw, and I think there's a lot you can learn from this. A.J. Brown might not be as healthy as we want him to be. I'm just putting that out there, okay? That could be the problem. There's no problem with Devonta Smith. The game script just didn't go his way necessarily. The big play that would have been Devonta Smith was a Jahan Dotson throw. Okay, it happens. It's football. If this was week 8, we'd all kind of, just shrug our shoulders and move on and go on to week 9. But it's week 1, so everybody's watching everything too much. It's the equivalent of baseball season to April, where we tell everybody, don't get too excited, don't get up or down about April too much. It's not going to tell the tale. But Devonta Smith is a player that I think is very steady. He is a guy that I think you can count on every year with the stats. You look at him, they're very consistent. If Saquon Barkley's healthy, if he's not, it's not going to matter. I think his role is his role in this offense no matter what. So I think he's an interesting buy low here because he is such a steady Eddie kind of player, a really good wide receiver 3. I think in any fantasy league, everyone would love to have him, but he was drafted more like a 2 in a lot of formats. So I think there's an opportunity here to buy, and it might be a safer one than A.J. Brown because he's not dealing with a knee injury that got drained of fluid, right? He's healthy.
Right.
So always give me the healthy guy, too, if I'm going to buy low. I'm sure a lot of people say A.J. Brown's a buy low. I like Smith a little more, and I think it'll cost you a little bit less.
All right, fair enough. And with that, let's pivot to a sell high candidate. Who do you got?
All right, well, sell high on the other side of this game is Javonte Williams, who had a great day, 2 touchdowns. But let's not forget, Jalen Carter spit himself out of this game, right? So he wasn't around. So that line is not the same without Jalen Carter in it. Let's not pretend like it is, okay? He's one of the best in the NFL at what he does, and Hawk and Lugie's apparently he's really good at as well. But Javonte Williams is a decent filler running back, a decent bench guy. But there could be this weird sentiment after this game where, oh, wow, Javonte Williams, he's going to be the lead back and everything's going to be fine. Well, maybe, but is he going to have another 2-touchdown game all year? It's possible. But in terms of like looking at a player at their peak value and looking at the running back of, landscape and other fantasy teams and what it looks like, there's a window here where you look at Javonte Williams and go, okay, his value is very high early on in September here, coming off this first game. He would be one of these chips I would see if I could trade for somebody else. You look at some of these other guys like Caleb Johnson, right, who gets moved down the depth chart. Do I think that's going to last? Do I really am worried about Caleb Johnson this year? Absolutely not. They put draft capital into him. He's going to play a lot more than you realize. And if he doesn't play a lot in September, don't panic. This is what happens with rookies. But who would I rather have rest of season, Caleb Johnson or Javonte Williams? I'd much rather have Caleb Johnson. I just think that is the path. And these are the kind of trades you have to make. And sometimes you have to hold your breath and hope that you're right. But Matt, to me, these are 2 situations where you could take advantage of right out of the gate week 1.
All right, I love it. We're going to stretch our legs for a little bit on the other side of the break. We're going to do a start sit reminder at SportsGrid and at SportsGrid TV. Those are our social media handles. We want to hear from you, and we're pretty sure you got things that you want to say to us. It comes with the territory. Joe, I think the start sit for week 1 is arguably the most important. Do you agree?
I do. I think people overthink. I think you should start the guys that you drafted highly and not overthink, make bad decisions, talk yourself out of the process. But there are guys on the fringe of RB2, on the fringe of wide receiver 3, on the flex appeal, and even some guys where we're looking at quarterback leagues that are a little deeper. Who should we start? We're going to talk about all those things when we come back because week 1, we got to get a W out of the gate. And we're going to help you. Don't go anywhere. Matthew Golden, one of my favorite prospects coming out of Texas. He had an incredible game against Arizona last year in the college football playoffs. Just, big touchdown after big touchdown, big moment after big moment. I loved him all year. And I was a little, skeptical at first, like, okay, well, it's kind of a crowded wide receiver room. And guess what? It's getting less crowded because everybody's hurt in Green Bay. Matthew Golden is the truth. He's the only guy healthy enough to play.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
At the moment, you will not be able to do a bet on the television set. However, Emily made it very clear that's what we ultimately want to do, and we may do it sooner than later, where you will be able to put a sports bet on the service through your smart TV set with your remote control or with your voice, especially if a service like Alexa Plus, which is scheduled to go on Amazon Fire TV sets and other smart TV sets, actually happens.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports Today. Matt and Joe with you here, having a great time. It's now time to get down to business, though. It's time for Start Sit, Joe. Here we go. I'm going to give you the options. I want you to talk me through your thoughts. Here we are. So the New York Giants are at the Washington Redskins. Tyrone Tracy is the running back until Cam Skadabu takes over, in my opinion. Or Jaylen Warren, Pittsburgh, visiting the New York Jets. Who would you rather?
Well, these guys are back-to-back in the expert consensus rankings on Fantasy Pros as late RB2s. You look at their Vegas lines, their projections, everything is pointing at 53 to 54 and a half rushing yards. So they're neck and neck. So what's the tiebreaker here? Well, it's got to be the scoring opportunities and the touchdowns. And I just think there's going to be less of them for Jaylen Warren. Not that he can't score a touchdown, but I just think it's going to be less of them when you look at the total for the Washington Commanders-Giants game and the Jets-Steelers game. I'm going to hate watch this Jets-Steelers game. I told you before, it's going to be like no other. I have never been so excited to see a miserable situation in football, a low-scoring, just two quarterbacks in new offenses.
What is it that's fueling that rage watch?
I'm the Loki of fantasy sports. I love chaos, and there's something to me that's magical about this narrative where you get 40-something-year-old Aaron Rodgers coming back to New York after being just a miserable disappointment for 2 years. Hopefully they boo him out of the building. And then somewhere around the third quarter, when Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers are ahead, they're going to start booing Justin Fields and the Jets. And I love that dynamic. I love it for Jets fans. I think it's hilarious. Arthur Smith is boring AF in terms of how he runs an offense. Both these quarterbacks, as I said, are new with all these new pieces around them to the scenarios. If this game breaks 20 points, it's going to be a miracle. So instead, I'm going to go with Tyrone Tracy because I think the Giants not only have a shot to cover, they could win this game outright too. Don't be shocked if that happens. But I think that 6.5 you saw, that 5.5 you saw, that's too much, I think, to give an in-division matchup like this one. I think the Giants show up today, and the Giants' defense is very good. They're going to run the football a ton. I think Tracy's upside is just a little bit more than Jaylen Warren.
All right, let's keep it moving here. Minnesota's at Chicago, Jordan Mason, or Houston is at the Rams, Nick Chubb.
Look, this might surprise you, but I want to go with Mason. I just don't like the way Nick Chubb has looked, and I've been the president of the Chubb Club for many years. Nick Chubb, one of my favorite players. Yeah, that's right. Phrasing's important. But you know what? But that's an old bit. We've been doing that bit on Fantasy Pros for years. And it's unfortunate. Like I don't just think he's ever going to be the same guy. Woody Marks is going to work in. Dameon Pierce is going to be around. Like, it's just going to be a mess, I think. Whereas with Jordan Mason, I think it's pretty clear how they want to work him into this backfield with Aaron Jones. And what did I say earlier, right? Week 1, you're going to see a lot of shared backfields. Even if that's not the plan, this was the plan, I think, of the Vikings. And I think the Vikings are going to go in there and beat the Bears. I also believe that. I think that defense is really good. You're going to go out there, run the football with a young quarterback, run the football on the road, run the football some more, take the pressure off J.J. McCarthy, play defense, and I think Mason will be a big part of that. So I just think he gets more opportunities than Chubb at the end of the day. I could be wrong. It happens, but I think Mason's the start that I want to make.
All right, let's move on to some wide receivers here. Now, you reported that Stephon Diggs is good to go, so let's talk. Stephon Diggs, New England against Las Vegas, or Rome Odunze, Chicago against Minnesota. Whom would you rather start?
You know, Stephon Diggs has a penchant for the dramatic sometimes. You got to love that about him. And I think that Stephon Diggs, you know, he recognizes it's a big moment, right? And is he going to be on the field the entire game? Probably not. I don't think so. But I do think he's going to make an impact. And I'm still not sold on Caleb Williams. I'm just not there. And you know this, going back to the college days at USC, I wasn't there. Going back to the draft process, I wasn't there. He was not the number 1 QB on my board. It was Jaden Daniels by a long shot. Check the receipts. They're all there. We had these discussions. People thought I was nuts then. After this past year, they don't think I'm nuts. We won Jaden Daniels 7-1 Rookie of the Year, didn't we? When Caleb was number 1 at plus 350 or 300, I think, when it opened. Guess what? Jaden Daniels just smoked him. And I just don't know if he's the right fit. And I think at some point in this season, it's not impossible to think you're going to get a pivot to Tyson Bagent. And I know that's going to surprise a lot of people. But I think Ben Johnson has no time for nonsense. I don't think Caleb Williams is the goods, has the goods, is going to be able to adjust to this new offense. And they're going to want somebody who can just manage the game and get the ball out quick and not take sacks and not try to do too much. So we'll see. So Rome Odunze, I don't feel great about. I don't have a lot of shares of that Bears offense. I just don't want in on it. I think it's going to take a while for everything to gel there. So instead, I'm going to go the other way. Give me Diggs for the upside here. And look, I think an exciting moment here where Mike Vrabel at home, first time, returning hero. I think that crowd's going to be live. It's a lot to look forward to in New England for a change, and it's been a while.
All right, let's continue to ask the hard questions here at wide receiver. Cleveland and Cincinnati, as exciting as it sounds. Cedric Tillman on one side, Denver and Tennessee. Marvin Mims Jr. on the other. Which way do you lean?
This is a really tight one, too, if you're talking about, deeper leagues or flex spots here. I like Tillman against Cincinnati. Again, not a great defense. Joe Flacco is going to throw the football a ton. It's not just Njoku. It's not just Judy. Cedric Tillman is a dude. In PPR leagues, I would prefer Tillman. But if we're playing just for touchdowns here in a standard or even a half PPR, Mims is more interesting to me then, because Mims did have that inexplicable, unsustainable touchdown run at the second half last year. I can't explain how it's going to come back around. All I can tell you is go back and look at the tape. Go back and look at the scoreboard of last year. What did the Denver Broncos do? They put up big numbers against bad teams, and they keep on pushing that accelerator as much as they possibly can. So I think they're going to do that again today against the Titans team that I just think is going to be overmatched out of the gate. So keep an eye on that. Again, Mims, half PPR, standard. Full PPR, though, I think Cedric Tillman can get you 12 points, 6 catches for 60 without a touchdown and be pretty damn good.
All right, let's stretch our legs here now and talk about the quarterbacks. And then we'll get into some waiver wire ads on the other side. And I think the first waiver wire ad that we're going to talk about is going to really surprise people, but that's coming up. All right, let's talk Brock Purdy, San Francisco at Seattle. We've talked at length about Christian McCaffrey. We've talked at length, Joe, about your thoughts about how this game could go sideways. Or Jordan Love, Green Bay against Detroit. Detroit, we talked about the managerial changes. Also, Green Bay's receiving cores all have a questionable kind of air about them. Does that mean Love will be using his legs more? How does this impact your decision, Purdy or Love today?
Look, I think it's really close. For me personally, I know Purdy is ahead in the expert consensus ranking, but considering everything that's going on with these wide receivers and what we're trying to figure out and how much is Christian McCaffrey going to play, I know Jordan Love is possibly missing Jaden Reed, but I think I'm going to lean towards Jordan Love here, and that's going to surprise people. I'm going to lean towards the fact that he can run a little bit. Jordan Love was never healthy last year. He got hurt in week 1 in Brazil, and he was never the same guy the rest of the season. He tried to come back too soon. You could tell he wasn't right. He didn't move in the pocket well. I think that addition of Matthew Golden is really important. I think that they're going to be ready. They're at home as opposed to Purdy going on the road to Seattle. If this was at home in San Francisco, I would probably lean towards Purdy. But going into Seattle against that defense with that crowd that I think is going to be hyped up, again, home underdogs against a division opponent, Matt, that's a big flag, I think, any week, but especially week 1, where there's a lot of strange. So I will take Jordan Love on this one.
Yeah, that's a really smart thing you bring up there, and a lot of savvy wagerers will always look for that, looking for those outliers, whether it be the home dog and whether it be those in-divisional matchups and things like that, the familiarity. Although they haven't been playing at all this season, there's still an understanding of the cultures of the team as well as the personnel. That's a really good point. That's why I generally will stay away from a lot of the week 1 sides per se, and I'll just be looking for some of the player props, some of the anytime touchdowns just to build my bankroll. Great point, Joe.
Yeah, we appreciate that, Matt. And of course, make sure you stay on SportsGrid all day long for Pro Football Today. But we've still got some players coming up here that you've got to add to your teams. And I know what some of you are going to say, oh, this guy's already rostered in my league. Well, congratulations, Brad and Chad. You're in a sharp league. But not everybody is. So we're going to help take a look at some guys that are still rostered under 50% that you might be able to pick up. Still in a lot of leagues, again, under 50% in the consensus. That means in over half of leagues, these guys are still available, and we want you to pick them up. Don't go anywhere. We're going to tell you those names when we come back.
We We all know nothing beats the energy of playing live roulette in a casino, but playing roulette online sure does have its perks. At the casino, you'll average 40 to 50 spins per hour, but online, you're looking at 100 to 150. The more spins, the more chance of wins. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The Dallas Cowboys losing that pass rush, losing another big impact player on the defensive side, all this does is make me like Dak Prescott more and CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens more, because what we talked about all offseason, right, Matt, which is, hey, when Dak is healthy, he is a top 5 fantasy quarterback, and the defense we think is okay, but we think they're going to be in a lot of shootouts. Now I definitely think there's going to be a lot more shootouts.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
No better place to be than SportsGrid. College football today, right here on the SportsGrid Network. Joe, Lisi, Donnie, right side for the entire season, Joe, on Saturday. This is your place. This is your place to be, Joe.
I love it. I tell you, and it's flying. Show's flying. We're on an hour already. I can't wait. We're licking our chops for these Rat Pack games. And it's a great slate.
Look at you on the screen right now.
Look like a little rat.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
The reason why I feel like Jared Goff doesn't really enter these MVP conversations. Jared Goff last year was on the team with the best record in football, threw for 4,700 yards, 37 touchdowns, and Tom was never in the race. He was never in the race because we know he's not that guy.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into FST. It's Fantasy Sports Today. We're having a great time. We know you are as well. Let's keep that energy going. Joey P, come on in, my man. It's time to do some waiver wire ads. Now, you might be saying, waiver wire? It's only we got. Come on now. Early bird gets the worm. It's smart to be on SportsGrid. Failure to prepare is preparing to fail. I could give you every possible thing.
A lot.
You guys know the deal. All right, so here we go. Waiver wire ads. Give me a running back and give me a guy that is going to be available in at least half of my leagues. Let's go.
Look, there's a good chance if you drafted late that Ollie Gordon did get drafted, and he should have. And chances are, if you're in a league with me, I was the one doing it because I am just going to make sure. And then our producer Sam just said, "Yep," because he knows that that's the way I roll right now. And it's because 2 years ago, Ollie Gordon at Oklahoma State was a really good running back. And then last year, some injuries, some off the field nonsense. It wasn't great. Like his stock kind of dipped. But the guy that you saw this preseason run for 126 yards and a bunch of touchdowns, that's the Ollie Gordon that I saw a couple years ago in college. And he's back. And Devon Achane does have a calf issue. And as we know, calf issues, Matthew, can be lingering. They can be problematic. If you remember back even the baseball days, remember when Josh Donaldson picked up that calf issue and it just kind of ruined his whole season a couple years ago? It just happens, okay? And he wasn't a running back. So I'm not saying Devon Achane is all of a sudden the sky is falling. I'm just saying for insurance, A, Ollie Gordon is somebody you should have. B, if you look at what Vegas is telling you, Ollie Gordon's going to work in this backfield. And it's not that long ago to go back and remember when Raheem Mostert had, 22 touchdowns a couple years ago, right, in this offense, and Devon Achane was still around. So there's a role here for two running backs in the Dolphins offense, the way this offense runs, especially if Tyreek Hill isn't the guy he used to be, and Jalen Waddle has had problems, and Jonnu Smith is not there. Don't be shocked if you see Ollie Gordon work a lot more, and it's not because Achane isn't great. It's because Achane is a guy that's tough to keep healthy through a 17-game season. And I think the path to doing that, if I'm Mike McDaniel, is getting Ollie Gordon the football more. And if you look at his touchdown prop alone today, it's around plus 175, plus 180. Like, Vegas is telling you they think that this is the guy around the goal line that you got to be worried about. And I think that they're right. And Vegas typically is correct. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go with Ollie Gordon here as the lead guy that I desperately want. Again, it's almost 50% rostered already, but if he's still floating out there, please pick him up.
Okay, so let's assume I'm in a league and I get sniped by a guy in a lucha mask holding a fantasy black book. I'm going to pose the same question again. Give me another running back available in at least half of my leagues. Who's it going to be?
Did you just go full like verbal Kint from Usual Suspects on me? Because if you look at this, right, like if you look behind me, go ahead, give me the wide shot, boys. Give me the wide shot. There's the lucha mask. Right there it is. There's the lucha mask. There's the black book.
Yep.
So he's just going to be making up things. Is that what's happening? Have we gone full Usual Suspects? Look, Quinshon Judkins did sign a fully guaranteed contract. You think I wasn't paying attention? I was. But that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be playing anytime soon. He's still going to go to the league for disciplinary action stuff. There's a good chance he's suspended. I'm just saying. Rashee Rice got suspended, so why wouldn't Quinshon Judkins? Right. It's probably going to be the case. In the meantime, somebody has to run the football. And Dylan Sampson is a pretty good young running back. Jerome Ford is just a guy, 42% rostered. I think Sampson, at least early on, for the first month of the season, can be a useful piece. And if he should go off in a game today, I can guarantee you he will be the first guy off the waiver wire. He will be the guy that you wish you would have just picked him up on Sunday for free. You'll have to empty the tank on the free agent budget to get him. And you're going to regret that because everybody right now is waiting. What if Jerome Ford picks up an injury and the backfield just becomes Sampson's, basically? That's a scenario that can happen. We see crazy things happen every single week. This is the NFL. Sampson, I think, is under-rostered. He should be a guy that you pick up.
All right. Now, we opened our show doing a segment on injuries, and I do believe about 75% of the names were wide receivers. So let's pivot to that position here. Give me a wide receiver. Instead of being available in half of my leagues, make this nearly a free square. Give me someone 8 out of 10 leagues right now. 8 out of 10 listeners, viewers are going to go and be able to pick up this guy. Who's it going to be?
Yeah, it's Demario Douglas of the Patriots. Look, we have the Josh McDaniels offense back. And what do we know about that offense, right? We know the running back's going to catch the ball in the backfield, so Travion Henderson, check. I know the slot receiver is going to get peppered with targets, check. It's just what they do. Go back to Wes Welker, go back to Julian Edelman, and now Demario Pop Douglas in that role, right? So Douglas has been very sharp in the preseason. He's been very good all throughout training camp. Everyone's been glowing about him. Efton Chisholm's been fun. Don't get me wrong, like he could be a guy that might work a little bit and get some time today. But I think Pop Douglas, especially in PPR leagues, I don't see a lot of touchdowns for Demario Douglas in his future again. But I do believe he is going to have the opportunity to get you a bunch of catches, get you double-digit points. And, you could take a 10 spot and get out of there and still live to fight the rest of the day. So Pop Douglas, another guy I think is worth rostering.
All right, we're getting a good response here on wide receivers. We'll get to one more wide receiver that will be available. But, Joe, before I do that, I want to know about a backfield that's fluid and give me a name that, again, free square. Give me a name I don't got to fight others for in a running back position. Anyone, any team?
Yeah, you're looking for somebody to fall in the end zone today. How about Chris Rodriguez Jr.? This is a backfield in complete motion. Nobody knows what the Commanders' backfield is going to look like. They've got Eckler, they've got Nichols, they've got Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, a.k.a. Bill, and they've got Chris Rodriguez too. And the guy that they've told you is working the goal line is actually Rodriguez. So he has the most valuable touches possibly of anybody. Eckler's health is always an issue, but just, under 10% roster, I think is kind of nuts for Chris Rodriguez because there is a scenario where he is the most valuable as the goal line back of any of these guys. And because there's so many of them working and every week it's going to be different, unless injury happens or somebody just really outperforms somebody else, I think this is going to be a very frustrating situation for fantasy managers all year long.
All right. A lot with name familiarity, especially ahead of week one where a lot of people haven't watched a lot preseason. Give me a familiar name at wide receiver that's going to be available in at least 7 out of 10 leagues.
All right. The guy for me is Cedric Tillman, and we touched on him a little bit earlier too in the start sit. Cedric Tillman is a really good wide receiver. I love this kid in college. I loved him in the draft process, and I knew it was going to take a little time because, well, the Browns are terrible. But Joe Flacco's in town, and Joe Flacco's throwing the football. He could throw it to his team or to the team, but today, an offense is going to throw it to Cedric Tillman.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
Matthew Golden, one of my favorite prospects coming out of Texas. He had an incredible game against Arizona last year in the college football playoffs. Just, big touchdown after big touchdown, big moment after big moment. I loved him all year. And I was a little, skeptical at first, like, okay, well, it's kind of a crowded wide receiver room. And guess what? It's getting less crowded because everybody's hurt in Green Bay. Matthew Golden is the truth. He's the only guy healthy enough to play.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Donnie, the season is 6 months, 5 if you check out in September. You're going to have a bad month. The Yankees had a horrible month. That is true. But beyond that, their regular season looks okay. They're going to win their 90 games or maybe a little bit more and get to the postseason. What is everybody freaking out about?
Everybody freaks out. It's the Yankee tax and the Yankee fan tax as well, where every single season you enter into the equation going like, it's championship or bust.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Remember these names: AZ Fudd, Olivia Miles, Lauren Betts. Depending on who wins that lottery, that's going to depend on who goes one. If Washington wins, it's Fudd. She's from the area. If Dallas wins, they're going to bring Fudd to play with, obviously, Paige. If Minnesota wins, I think they go Miles with the point. If Seattle wins, they go with Miles, and the same thing with Chicago.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports Today. Just having a great time, Matt and Joe and the entire crew. We wish you just absolutely happy football. And in a celebration of life, Joe, before we get to the 3 and out, I just want to get your thoughts on the passing of Mets manager and I believe Orioles player as well, Davey Johnson.
Yeah.
I know that Davey Johnson meant a lot, especially to me growing up in Bayside, Queens, in the shadow of what was once Shea Stadium. Davey Johnson and the Mets just electrified a city. I can remember I was in junior high school. Your memories and thoughts on Davey Johnson and then on to 3 and out.
Yeah, look, I mean, that was my manager as a kid growing up in the 80s in Brooklyn. I mean, that was my guy. And he was everybody's guy. He was a player's manager. He's a very good player. Ironically, the guy that made the last out in the 69 World Series, right, but ended up taking the Mets to that big World Series victory in 86. A guy that won everywhere he went: Baltimore, Cincinnati, the Washington Nationals. David Johnson's a Hall of Fame manager who never got the credit he deserved. And I think it's, again, celebration of, you said, of life. And if you are a Mets fan or somebody who was around sports in New York in the 80s, Davey Johnson was a very important figure, a country guy who kind of knew his way around the New York media. And that is no small task.
Absolutely. All right. With smiles on our face, we began. On smiles on our face, we shall end. It's time for 3 and out. It's just a real happy time. You know, football is upon us for everybody. And again, I just want to really remind people, just be careful with your week 1 wagers, please. We're here to build a bankroll so we don't have to be chasing those crazy plus numbers come like week 2 or 3. With that said, Joe, I'm off my soapbox. Take it away.
Well, I mean, the first thing we got to watch is the thing we started the show with. We've come full circle. We got to end the show with. It's the Christian McCaffrey news, right? So he says it's overblown. It's not a big deal. And I say, okay, fine, cool. Go prove it. And that's great. And how's it going to be next week and the week after and the week after that? I anticipate that he will be fine, but to anticipate that he is just going to be all of a sudden the safest guy in fantasy again is wishcast nonsense. So he's an older running back now. He has missed significant time in numerous seasons, including last year and before last year. So it's going to be very important to see how this backfield gets split up here. And if I am Kyle Shanahan, and I'm not, I'm looking to work in Brian Robinson Jr. a lot in week 1. Why? Sure. Because it is a long season and because I traded draft capital in the organization for Brian Robinson Jr. He's a pretty solid running back. You know, he's pretty good. And in that scheme, he's going to be very good. We saw Jordan Mason carry a lot of fantasy teams last year early on when he got all the volume. I'm not saying he's going to get all the volume, but certainly this Christian McCaffrey calf thing is something we all want to see, and it is something that can re-aggravate at any time. So we're going to have to keep a close eye on that one. We're also going to watch very closely a marquee matchup. The Buffalo Bills are hosting the Baltimore Ravens tonight on Sunday Night Football. What a tremendous matchup in week one. Matt, I went back and I rewatched that playoff game in the snow this week, and I forgot just how the Buffalo Bills got it taken to them in the second half of that game, how Derrick Henry just ran amok on them. And it was unbelievable to watch. It was also forgettable at one point that Mark Andrews, had a key fumble where a ball got punched out. And I wonder psychologically if that kind of affected him later in the game in that other spot where he dropped that ball. I think Mark Andrews is a lock to score a touchdown today. I think Derrick Henry, first half anytime touchdown score at plus 165. You could flip Derrick Henry from minus 160 to plus 160 on the touchdown side by cutting half of the game out. Yeah. This is what I did with Jalen Hurts. Guess what? It worked on Thursday. It's going to work again Sunday night. So I think Baltimore is going to go out there, and I think Baltimore's got a lot to prove, and they want to take it to Buffalo in the worst way. I like Baltimore in that game, but we'll see how it all plays out. And then last but not least, too, the week one weirdness. There's going to be weirdness. I told you, I think Seattle's my weirdness. I think the Giants could be weird. 6.5, too many points there. But from a fantasy perspective, too, what's the weirdness of all these backfields? We got to figure out who's going to do what. The Washington Commanders backfield right now is a complete toss-up. We talked about the Jacksonville Jaguars backfield earlier in the show. There's a lot, Matt, that we're trying to decipher. But what are you looking forward to in week one the most?
All right, so this is going to be weird, but I've always been a sensory guy, and just the colors really do something for me. Just seeing all of the different games, seeing it in the split screen, absorbing all the information. It's this dopamine rush that just hits me. And it's amazing how as I get older, I can still process it all. There's a generation that lives and dies by their device, and I get that. But there's a part of me that can still process it all and then come back here next week and have these informed discussions with you. So for me, it's the stimuli of it all.
So a little Grateful Dead and a little Red Zone for Sunday for Matt Striker. I think that's what's going on there.
No commercials
I love it.
here, bud.
There's no commercials in Matt's brain. There's none.
Guess what, golfers? Vegas isn't just casinos and pool parties. In fact, there are 50 golf courses within a 15-mile radius of the Strip, all boasting beautiful desert oasis landscapes. So, if you're looking for a break from the action, consider hitting the links. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Donnie, the season is 6 months. 5 if you check out in September. You're gonna have a bad month. The Yankees had a horrible month, that is true. But beyond that, their regular season looks okay. They're gonna win their 90 games or maybe a little bit more and get to the postseason. What is everybody freaking out about?
Everybody freaks out. It's the Yankee tax and the Yankee fan tax as well, where every single season you enter into the equation going like, it's championship or bust.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Remember these names: AZ Fudd, Olivia Miles, Lauren Betts. Depending on who wins that lottery, that's going to depend on who goes one. If Washington wins, it's Fudd. She's from the area. If Dallas wins, they're going to bring Fudd to play with, obviously, Paige. If Minnesota wins, I think they go Miles with the point. If Seattle wins, they go with Miles, and the same thing with Chicago.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
I don't like it. Does he think he's playing on the opening kickoff? Does he want to get a handoff at that point?
I mean, he's involved in the program. Here's the problem with James Franklin.
Why do coaches even run out with the football team? Like, Andy Reid doesn't run out with the Chiefs.
Yeah, but it's the NFL. This is college kids.
What about college basketball? Do those
they're
guys
like a
run out
father figure. Well, they used to be like a father figuring. Now the kids are making more than the coach.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Pro Football Today on SportsGrid is live. Joe Lisi and Kevin Walsh with you, and every single Sunday of this NFL season, for what should be, Joe, an excellent week number 1.